Hey, everybody, and welcome. This is Scientology Life After a Cult, and normally this morning I would be doing a recap of all the culty Scientology stuff and maybe even some other culty stuff, but we are reserving today for my personal dumpster fire. We are going to get into it. Welcome, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for being here in the chat. Good to see you. Thank you to the members. And a huge thank you to the moderators today for being here. So, like I said, normally if you catch my channel, we're doing a recap of Scientology culty stuff. But no. We're going to talk about this hot mess today. Because let me tell you guys what happened. I thought that, and by the way, I should warn you. You're going to need your Kleenex. I've already gone through a box. And I even have the backup paper towels. But we're going to do this because I started putting some videos together for... I also have my chamomile tea. I started putting videos together for Tony's mom. And I don't know if I wasn't ready to do it. I don't think I'd ever be ready to do it. If you've been following my channel since I started here on YouTube in December, you caught probably like 3, 4, or 5 videos that my Tony did here on the channel. And I thought I told Tony's mom that I would go through and kind of put together a compilation so she can just watch one video and have that. And that was really hard. And I barely got into it, into the videos. I did grab some. Nancy, I just saw your message. I will do that. I got to do it in another screen. So I just started going through the videos and pulling them up yesterday and, wanting to put this together. I've not gone back and watched these videos that Tony came on and did with me, right? We did one kind of like talking about how we met and all that. And then we did another one. We actually did a few after we shared about his diagnosis and how his cancer had spread. And we shared that with all of you. So hold on, I gotta do something for Nancy here. There we go. There you go. So I start putting these things together. Oh, and I love right now too that there's 222 people. Well, now it jumped up, but that was our lucky number. 222. We'd get like parking spot would be 222. It was just this number that always popped up. We never knew why, but we went with it. Anywho, I'm putting together these videos and I'm realizing in watching some of them that there's some really good advice in there. And even though I wanted to stop, actually, that's not true. I didn't want to stop. I wanted to like find those parts that I remember from those conversations for his mom. And probably I'll put together the whole video and just have it here on the channel as well for myself and for so many of you. And going through the videos, I was rereading all of your kind messages and your words of support and your questions for Tony. And at times it is funny. And it reminded me though, one of the reasons why we shared what was happening with all of you is Tony felt he was right. And this has turned out how it's been, that then I would have this community after. And that's very much been true for many of you. And it's been really helpful. And it's been a while since I've done a video specifically talking about Tony. So I thought, well, there's no way I was going to pull together a recap today. I did kind of clean it up. I hope you guys appreciate this. I am still in my pajamas, but I did take the rollers out. Okay, so we're gonna kind of get into some of these. And yeah, Believe, it may feel like he passed a lifetime ago, but it's only been a couple of months. Yeah, it's been 129 days. The grief is still raw. Do it another time if needed. Now I feel like now is the time. It helped me to find the stuff I did at the end of the last video that he did. So I want to share that with you guys if you want to be here for it. So let's see. First, um, I think this is from the first one I'm going to show you. I think it's from the first video that we did together, and it was called How I Found Love After a Cult, Meet My Tony. And it was the first time that he came on, and that would have been, oh my gosh, it was like 8 months ago. So whatever that was, earlier this year. So let's take a look at that, and then we're gonna chat about it. I call him my Tony because at our age. Oh, and one of the question we had just gotten was, why do I call him my Tony? Like, how did that start? I call him my Tony because at our age, we're both 50. You're 52?
Yeah,
He's turning 53 in May, and I'm 53. And it sounds weird to say my boyfriend.
Yeah. I like it when she calls me my Tony.
Yeah.
I have to say. It makes me feel good.
Yeah, in the mind.
I like it when she calls me my Tony. It makes me feel good. It's great.
And it just, because we're not married. We just, our kids are grown. We're not having kids together. We just didn't really see a reason.
When we first met, I knew that this was going to get serious. And I literally told Nat, I don't think marriage is going to be something for me. So I'd like a future. And if you can promise to never marry me, I think we can have one. And it's working. It's great. It's just the way it works for us. I call him my Tony because, so that was just, that was like in the beginning, and it was the first video, and it was neat and fun to do with him and to hear your questions, because Tony was my first serious relationship. Well, only after leaving Scientology, right? Because I had gotten a divorce not long after leaving Scientology. And there's so many, it's interesting how he learned about Scientology and how he learned about my past and what I'd gone through and how he processed it. And there was never any judgment about it. That was a great thing. There was nothing really but curiosity on his part. He was so curious about it. He didn't even know a lot about it. He had not heard much about Scientology, despite the fact that he even worked by the Blue Buildings at one point. Over the years, we'd been within blocks of each other before we ever met, not even knowing it. But when we compared, where did you live when? Even when I was in the Sea Organization at the Blue Buildings, he was just a few blocks away. So it's just been interesting. And we didn't meet until, it was a better time where we could meet and we could be together. And I'm glad that it worked out that way. But it's amazing how many close calls we had. And the differences. And what I loved about this first video we did is it helped me realize too, how he and I we were so different in many ways, but we were able to make that work. Our differences is kind of what brought us together, even with our differences in our ecosystem. And this is, I think, what he was talking about here. It's been a nice balance. But it's been interesting because of the extreme differences. I got no problem taking a leap, taking a risk. Let's go. I am all fine. I like that feeling of it. Even the things like physically things that he wants to go do. And I'm always like, wait, no. I have not met my insurance deductible. We cannot do that. Yeah, I love it. There's something, it's like therapy for me. I just like to move. I like the movement, but I also like the adrenaline. I like that feeling of and I like the freshness and newness and spontaneity and just, I love it. He likes the thrills, and not that I don't like to have fun. I think it's because I spent so much of my life stuck in fight or flight that ever since I left Scientology, I kept saying, I just want to be bored. I would literally pay money. I would pay money, take my money to be bored. I just told my sister the other day that I think my fight or flight was broken earlier. And it's true. And that was something that we talked about a lot. And how, we both have like different ecosystems, and how
how that actually brings us together, and me understanding his need to ride his motorcycle sometimes, even though it freaked me out, that's something that he needed to do. He was more of a thrill seeker, and I just was not. I've done a lot of things in my life that would be looked at as being thrill seeking, but I did it reluctantly and usually because I had to. Not because like it was my choice. When I went up into a stunt plane once, and but it was for my job. I was doing a story on this stunt plane over 4th of July, and nothing was supposed to happen. He was just supposed to fly around, which was enough for me because of my fear of heights. And he ended up doing every trick in the book, and it terrified me. But at the same time, once I gave into it and just realized whatever's going to happen is going to happen, I actually did enjoy it. And I think that's how Tony approached so many things with he could find the excitement in it and the curiosity in it. And I think that's something that not just helped him, but helped me too, helped me understand a lot of that. I think, did I like, hold on, I don't know if I just shared this one or if it's the same one. This is where we are very different. I think this one's different. Different. I like things put away. If I had my way, the whole house would look like a VRBO with just a lot of things put away.
Yeah.
I'm a little more minimalistic in ways.
Yes.
That's why I wear socks with holes.
Yeah. And, I like to blame it on my ADD, but I'm not sure I can. But the thing is, I'm not cluttered, but I have things out. I need to see it. And I like to collect things. I have a reason for everything.
Yeah.
So if it's hidden away in a drawer behind something, it's like it's not even there. It's disappeared forever. So I need.
It's interesting how that was so different for us. I really like things put away, and he liked to have them out. And so even our house was kind of split up in that way, where we decided that, okay, he could just do whatever he wants in the lower level, and then upstairs we would do it together, but I had final say if I didn't like something. And it worked. It really did. Teresa, thank you for becoming a member of the channel. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Rika, I get it. If I put something away, it doesn't exist. He said the same thing. It was totally the same. So later on, as you know, I think it was maybe a couple months later. So this was like 4 months ago when we found out that his cancer had spread. I think at this point it was to his liver. I can't remember if we knew it had spread everywhere by this point, but what was he talking about? Basically, I think this was an update when we were sharing what actually was going on, like when the cancer had spread. And this was just a couple of weeks before he died. But when it gets to the level of being where it's at right now, if it just depends on if this radiation therapy can help slow it down. It's still the prognosis is the reality is it's really poor.
Yeah, it's not a good situation.
And I just love that's just so like him too, to laugh at that in that moment, because it was so devastating to us, but it was so ridiculous that I think we just rejected it. Like, this is so dumb that this is happening. Galen NN209, thank you so much for becoming a member of the channel. Mahalo and hip hip hooray. I appreciate that. But I thought that was just so Tony to bring that levity to a horrible situation.
Each time we think, there's a little, you kind of get to the next marker, and the next marker is typically brought another hurdle that's twice as high as the when you just jumped. So we're just getting our legs stretched out at this point, and learning more about what this new addition brings to the look of the treatment, and the near-term future of the expectations, I think, that are more realistic about this level of cancer now.
But when it gets to the level of so that must have been after we found out it spread everywhere, which at that point we knew that, he was
we'd known from even when he was diagnosed, because he had 2 rare and aggressive forms of cancer. One was a rare and aggressive form of prostate cancer, and the other was a rare and aggressive form of kidney cancer. So the first thing that happened is they took a kidney and they took his prostate, but it had already spread outside of. And if you can catch prostate cancer before it leaves the prostate, it's almost 100% curable. Once it spreads, it becomes an issue. So he continued on with treatment for the prostate cancer for another year or so after he recovered from his surgery. And, they checked him every 12 weeks. What ended up happening in the end is it was the kidney cancer. When he had the kidney cancer in his kidney and it was removed, they considered that he didn't have it anymore, but knew that it could exist somewhere and eventually show up. And that's exactly what happened. And it happened much more fast than we thought that it would. It really did. Let's see. This one, I think I can't remember why I clipped this. I think this one was like just more of his humor.
I understand that my mind isn't working at its optimum. So it's easy to now kind of recognize more so that I should get over it. And of course, defer to someone who is clearly, has my best, and I don't have to worry about, 2 + 2 equaling 4.
Yeah. Fortunately, he trusts me with the keys to the house. He, at this point, the cancer had spread to his brain membrane. So, especially in the evening, he would have a very, very noticeable cognitive decline. And he would do things like wake up, or not even wake up. He would just be sitting there, and then he would stand up, and I'd say, "Where are you going?" And he would say, "Oh, I'm going to go meet my dad around the corner." And before he got to the door, he would kind of come out of it and realize, like, whoa, wait a minute. One, his dad has been deceased for years. And secondly, it's just not the time to do that. It's almost like he was between 2 different worlds those last few weeks. And medically, they were like, well, it being in his brain, it makes sense why, especially later in the day, as he tires even more, that it would affect his cognitive ability. And and it did. And we went through a period of, he had to make a really quick adjustment to, he trusted me, but to really trust when your reality is not, when you can't trust what you think you hear and see, that there's someone there you can trust to let you know what's real and what's not real. And that's what he was talking about, because sometimes that would happen. Once it spread to his brain, it was kind of a coming and going thing, and it would be worse in the evenings. Evenings were really hard. I needed to sleep. He was only sleeping at the most maybe 2 hours at a time. That was really good if he could sleep for 2 hours. Otherwise, he was awake and he was walking around a lot because of how uncomfortable he was. And so I constantly worried about that he was going to fall or something while I was sleeping. And he did have a couple falls, but nothing that was that was major. Anna says maybe his dad was just waiting for him on the corner of life and death. Hindsight, yeah, I kind of think so. There were a couple things like that with his dad where he said something like that. Lathanda, thank you so much for the super sticker. I remember when Tony changed his YouTube name to My Tony after you thanked your moderators every day. It was so sweet when that made you laugh. Yeah, that's right. He didn't even tell me. He just did it. And I saw him in the chat as My Tony, and I thought that was wonderful. Hey, Feral Cheryl, thank you for being here. Okay, now let's take a look. Hold on a second. You can tell my brain's not firing on all cylinders because I'm like, did we finish this clip? Nope. Yeah. Where's meds? And we have, we're learning, like, putting systems in place. Like, our assistant Alexa has been absolutely amazing.
Drives me nuts.
reminds us because it's like every few hours something has to be happening, and certain meds have to be kept apart, and it's like this whole thing. And
I've been trying
that's
for
been
years
helping.
not to let Alexa know my business, and now she's all up in it. She knows
Yeah.
everything.
That's true. He was not a fan of Alexa, but I needed the help. She helped because his meds had to be done at certain times, certain ones not together. Teresa says, I have so much respect for you, Natalie, for being so open and real with your grief. Thank you for sharing the authentic love you and Tony shared. I've been watching for a while, but staying quiet. Mahalo. Teresa, I'm glad you're here and that you're commenting. Thank you so much. I know many of you lurk and don't comment. I'm a lurker on so many channels too. So I get it. I get it. Yeah, that's right. She's all up in it. Alexa was all up in his business and he was just not down with it, but he recognized that like I needed help. I mean, just keeping it straight in my brain with, the way I would get more sleep than him, but not enough sleep to where I felt like I could track all this on my own. It actually was a great tool, even though he never liked Alexa. She still helps me to this day. I find her to be a helpful assistant. Juju Hall, Tony keeping his good nature and humor throughout his journey. Yeah. And this is going back and looking at this, as much as it's sad, it also just reminds me of how resilient he was and how and so much of what he said, you guys who were around there know, it was like he knew that we were building this community and we would be able to talk about him and we'd be able to do exactly what I'm doing right now, which I've not done in a while because I didn't have a break from it. Just like online, I felt like I had a break from it. Every day, it's something that I deal with and work through. And some days are better than other days. And right now, I'm just going through a harder day. That's right, Sandy. Every day is a great day not to be in a cult, but some days are just plain hard. Please be kind. The dancing videos are my favorite. Okay, I have to find those because he would come in the background at the end of a recap. I should find those for his mom too, because yeah, I got to go find which ones those were. He would never tell me. He would just show up and do it, which made me laugh even more. It was funny. Okay, now let's see. I'm trying to get the timeline right here. Oh, okay. So I remember here he was talking about exactly now, like continuing to do the morning recap and how helpful that is. There's a whole protocol, how helpful it was then and how helpful it'll still be. And it has been. Protocol around that and what you can touch and what you can't touch. And
yeah, we call the chemo pill the HD, the big HD,
heavy duty,
baby.
Although sometimes I take it over to him, I'm like, hey, I got your Molly right here. This morning I told him it was ecstasy.
That's when we turn up the tunes. Calvin Harris, turn it up.
Towards the end, it just got to, he was taking this chemo pill twice a day and he was doing immunotherapy as well. And, it just would get old. And so I started telling him, yeah, here's your Molly. He thought it was funny. It made us both laugh, but it was a chemo pill. So the last video that he did was actually a week before he died. This is the last one. He did this video. This was at the beginning of June. It was June. He died on June 10th. And this last video is where, as I've been working through these, realized like, wow, there's some great info there. There really is. Tennessee Treasure Finder, is this something you need to do on our own? Would it be helpful for us to review your videos and send you timestamps? That would be awesome. I would love that. Yeah, definitely. Natalie at lifeafteroccult.com if you just send me a timestamp or a clip if it's less than a minute, or just even the timestamp, and I can find it and then add it to the stuff that I'm going to put together for his mom and for his kids too, for me, for us, honestly, for all of us, for all of us. T, good to see you per Scientology audit. Teresa, thank you. I watch you a lot, never comment, but I'm so sorry for your pain that you're experiencing today. Thank you, Teresa. Okay, so this one, again, this is, you guys might remember, those of you who've been around, this was literally 7-8 days before he died. So it was probably, this was just 5 days before he went into the hospital for the last time and went on a ventilator. This was just 5 days before that.
Just because something like this happens to someone, and we'll just use me as an example, doesn't mean that it has to change those things. It just means that we can, maybe pay attention to them more or do them more often, or it's another reminder to do them or share it. But, it's not like it has to all of a sudden become that way.
Yeah.
We can be present and without being sick or dying.
Yeah. What?
Believe it, it can be true. So when you get to that place, if you do, of a place of change in your life, it's not that radical. And the other thing to think about there is that life can change very quickly and for any given reason. So why wait on the opportunity to be more present in your time with specific situations or people, or for whatever else comes up.
That is something that was a big takeaway for me in going through these videos, is that reminder that, it's so being present now when you have that opportunity. And that's something that we realized, that we could, knowing our time was limited, that we could spend it just freaking out about the whole thing. And at times we did that too. I did that. Or do our best to just experience each other and our friends and family up until he could no longer experience it in the same way that we do. And hearing that again, I found that to be really helpful, because there's so much that can happen in life. There's tragedy, there's difficult circumstances, just there's always going to be challenges. But we can get through the challenges and still find those pockets of joy and happiness in just the most simple of things. And maybe then they become bigger. And that's what I've been experiencing throughout his illness and since his death, has been, finding those pockets. It's like being trapped underwater, and you can see where there's this pocket of air, and you're just going to go up and take a breath, and you do, and you're like, okay, I can do this. I can go back down in the water and just do what needs to be done. And I felt like if he could do that, if he could continue to find joy and laugh, even at the situation, laugh in the face of death, literally, that I could do that too. And then I could continue to do that. And that is the biggest thing over and over again that he would tell me. I want you to have an amazing life. I want you to have fun. I want you to get out there and engage with the world. I know you're going to be sad, but I don't want you, to not be present for your own life. And I'm glad that he said those things over and over again, because at the time I didn't want to hear it. I wasn't hearing it. I knew what he meant, and he was right. He was right. That's the simplicity of that. All right, hold on a second here. We got another clip from the same video. I think this is a different one. Oh, wait, you know what? Hold on. I'm not going to do that one because I lost the spot there. Lacey says, Natalie, when a person is passing in those last days, you will see the loved ones who have passed. I know from experience. I've heard that even from hospice. People in hospice have told me exactly that. That it's like they have one leg in one world and another leg in the other one. Susan, I agree. Yes, my Tony was extraordinarily special in many, 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 many ways. So take a look at this here. One of the things that we're doing that we know, like he showed me how to charge the battery for the weed trimmer.
We're doing laundry. We're doing all kinds of things that as we need to, we're relearning certain skills, learning new skills.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I can do laundry. I just don't do it like how he likes laundry to be done. He likes to separate things and use the other settings on the washer. Like I have never used the other settings on a washer or dryer. I just go normal, no matter what it is. But Tony has educated me. This is why he banned me from laundry 10 years ago. He told me never to touch the...
She shrunk some very important items of mine, and I needed to not ever experience that again.
Because he has very nice clothes, and I tend to not. So I just if I can't throw it all in together, that's why I don't wear a lot of white.
And I don't mind doing
it. It was this little thing, but it was always a joke between us because it did. Like I really did suck at laundry and he was so amazing at it. And so that's why it became something that he took care of for us. And I was never allowed to touch it again. And I didn't until, right before he died. Kay Hankala says, I would love for you to share more Tony stories when and if you feel ready to do that. He's such a bright light, and I get such a warm feeling when you talk about your life together. Oh, all right. I appreciate that. Lacey says, for a man who knew what was going to happen, he was pretty calm when talking about all the medical. Yeah, that was something that blew my mind too, is even when we were in the ICU and the doctor came in with the official, there's nothing more we can do for you. I mean, we knew that was coming. I knew that was going to be coming as soon as they were going to intubate him. He was really at peace with it. I asked him if he was afraid. Are you afraid to die? Are you worried about anything? And he said no. He said that he was excited about what was going to happen next. His only concern was for me and the boys, me and his sons. And I remember asking him the day before he died, I said, when he was on the ventilator, because he could wake up and sometimes he could write on a dry erase board. Sometimes he couldn't, but sometimes he could. And I asked him if he was ready that day to go, and he said no. And the next day in the morning, I asked him, are you ready today? And he said, yeah. And I asked him again, are you afraid? And he shook his head, no. And I said, are you still excited about what might happen afterwards and finding out? And he said, yes. And his eyes really lit up at that moment. So he talked about what would happen afterwards leading up to it. He was really open about talking about that. And I think that's a lot of why he was okay with it, is he didn't believe that this was just going to be it. And he had lived such an amazing life. He had done so many of the things that he wanted to do. He had traveled all over the place. He had so many experiences. And he never did the like, well, why me? Why is this happening to me? It was the opposite. He said that, he's lived this incredible full life. He's experienced, love and all of the things, and that there are children who have cancer and who aren't going to make it to their 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, whatever birthday. And that's where the real tragedy is, when you haven't had an opportunity to live a life. And it got me thinking about too, even if you what we do with our life and our time. Because if we're not living our lives, if we're not seeking and trying to create joy and happiness, which are desirable things, at least they are for me, then what are we doing? If we're just focusing on things that are negative or hurtful, then that's how you're spending your life. That's the short, we're taking this time that is so limited. And how are we using it? And he really saw that and made that clear. And it's something he talked about a lot. How will we use that time? How will I use it afterwards? Which was something, again, that he just talked about a lot. He always encouraged me. And I've done that. I've continued to show up. He's very passionate about exposing Scientology, other cults as well. He, before he got really sick, he was a moderator in the chat. And that's how a lot of you got to know him too, outside of these videos. And yeah, did I share this one already about how you want to show up? Let's see here.
Well, how do you want to show up? You say it all the time. How do you want to show up? Or how versus how you do show up? And I'm not saying that I show up the way I want to show up every day. Trust me, I do not. But I have a goal in mind. I'm planning on hitting that. And I don't always. But knowing how it is you want to show up makes a difference in how you do. Well, how do you want to show up? You say it all the time. How do you want to show up?
That is so much of how he chose what we talked about, is how do we want to spend from the moment we found out that the cancer had spread everywhere. It was 10 weeks. It was 10 weeks from then to when he died. And I think that idea of looking at how we want to show up, he knew, he knew before I knew. For sure. Like when we got, and I've shared this with some of you who, well, I'll share it again anyways. Tony and I were in Clearwater. We had gone to Florida to see friends, protest Scientology some, get him out. He wanted to do a few things before he couldn't. And that's what we did in Florida. And friends made arrangements for this awesome, fun pontoon ride. And right before it, he just wasn't feeling up to it that he could go on the boat, but he still wanted us to go and have a good time. And it was actually on the boat that I found out that his cancer had spread everywhere, because somebody from the oncology office back in Minnesota called, and I picked up on the boat. And I had kind of reamed them out about why is it taking so long to get this result. And then the nurse was like, what do you mean? It says here that the doctor already spoke to Tony. And I said, no, there's no way. I'm with Tony. We're out of town. That he didn't say anything. And he knew, he had found out that it had spread everywhere, which at that point meant, there was only one outcome for that. And he still didn't tell me or us, because he wanted me and us, the friends we were with, to have a good time, to have that time together and to enjoy it, and to work on those bonds, and even here on YouTube with the chat, to communicate, to get to know people, to share his story. He wanted to do all of that because he knew that when he was gone, you all would be here, and that I would be here, and we can talk about it together, those who want to or knew him, and go through it together. And yeah, I think that's why today I just decided I just wasn't almost going to do a video. And I thought, well, this is what I'm dealing with. Maybe let's do this. Is it Cerise? Natalie, I'd like to suggest you check out a movie called Tuesday. The subject matter deals with death, loss, and what comes after. Okay, Tuesday. Got to remember that. Tuesday. Tuesday. I love that. Gaslit, you guys have created such a safe space. I appreciate that. Anna says, my Tony wanted you to enjoy your time and to create better, beautiful memories for you. Very much so, he did. James Steele, Natalie, we're the luckiest people who get to spend even a moment of our lifetime with our soulmates. Absolutely. Hands down. And that was his thing, was he wasn't going to spend the time that he had left being just massively bummed out about it was the only time he had left. He did go through that loss and mourning it. It was difficult, but he made a conscious decision every day to get up and show up the best that he could for himself, for me, and for his family. And in fact, I think this clip here kind of says it all.
You got to keep rolling, you got to keep rolling with it. Ain't nothing going to slow it down and nothing going to stop it.
Ain't nothing going to break my stride.
Ain't nothing going to take my stride. Going to hold me down. It's just a matter of how we're going to handle it. And we're handling it with what it takes. You got to keep rolling,
That was his whole thing, even with what we were facing, is we just had to keep rolling. We had to keep going. And then I would go and keep going afterwards. It's been so interesting to me because I've had periods of time since he died where I think, oh, okay, I'm feeling really good and I'm happy. And in those moments, I just lean into it for however long as it'll last, and I can enjoy that. And then there's times like now, where it's so much harder. So what did we talk about doing before he died with many of you who've been with me since then, that I would lean into this community and we talk about it. We talk about him. Mims, we love you, Nat. Thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, he didn't say to talk about him, but I think he knew that would be the topic of conversation. Robin says, Natalie, when you were going through it with Tony, I was going through it with my husband. I am so sorry, Robin. I think we either chatted in the chat or email. Yeah. Gaslit says, I'm glad you did. I've been on autopilot and my mask was dropping. Yeah, I think some of it is you do go on autopilot because somehow you still have to take out the garbage and, do all of the things that seem like it's not a big deal, but it becomes such a big deal. It just, for whatever reason, becomes a big deal. Robin says it was a 1.5-year battle, which we lost. I'm so sorry, Robin. I'm sorry. And I'm also glad that your partner I'm sorry, I didn't catch if it was I think you said your husband, that he's not in pain anymore. That was the thing. It is, as much as I didn't want to lose Tony, I didn't want him here in the shape that he was, and he didn't want it either. And that's a hard thing to wrap your head around, that the person that you love so much, who loves you so much, who is your person, that that it's better for them to not be here because it's only going to get worse. The beautiful thing about the way that Tony died, months ago, him and I decided that whatever happens is going to be the best possible outcome for both of us. And we let go of just trying to control the outcome, which we couldn't control. It didn't matter what we did. It wouldn't have changed what happened, right? But the way it happened, to be able to have, his boys there, to him to be able to not be as sick as he was for a really long period of time. He battled cancer for over 2.5 years, but from March, spring of this year is when it was really he was getting really sick. He'd been sick the whole time, but it took on a whole nother level. And he still wanted to live life. he still wanted to, he always said that if he can't mow the lawn, then he doesn't want to be around anymore. And what he meant was it's like something so simple as that. That's just like all he was maybe asking for or hoping for. But because he had gained so much weight when he did hormone therapy, that when he stopped and when he got really sick, which turned out to be the kidney cancer that reared its head and spread everywhere so fast. It was so incredibly fast, but that was actually for him, that was a good thing, because he's like, oh, well, at least I don't have to see another winter. He hated, he was not a fan of winter, but he didn't want it to drag on where he would look and be really sick. And when he got sick, he lost a ton of weight, but he actually got back down to the weight he was before he ever got sick and had cancer. So he looked good. He looked good. You could see it in so many ways. But that was important to him. It was important to him how he looked when he died, because he knew that his boys and I would be there. And, he was a good looking man. So of course he wanted to have that up till, for as long as he could. And he did. And Rona, exactly. He made the most of every moment. And that's what made it also, I think, easier in ways for those of us around him. Tara, thank you for being a member for 5 months. I appreciate it. Tony showed us how to live with gratitude and love while dying. Beautiful. Also, a wise person once told me that grief is a place to visit, not live. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. And that is how I feel. When it happens, and it happens hard. But you're right. Yeah, I have these moments of still having so much fun, and I love doing the recap, and I love doing fun videos on YouTube, and getting my sense of humor back is helping me live. It's helping me engage again. It's helping me be creative again. In Carnosol, my mom's cancer went the same way. Initial surgical treatment that looked okay for a while, then fighting when metastases were found, then quickly dying as things got untreatable. Yeah. Cancer just sucks. It's the worst. It's horrible. Gaslit says, yep, mom says that. Put a date on the calendar of point we have to feel different. We've grieved, and now we project into the future. Yeah. Paulo, yeah, he died in grace. Yeah. And right at the end, too, after he died, I shared with you guys, there was a playlist playing, and I was laying with him in bed, and his sons were there, and they were holding his hand and touching him. And I was laying with him, and Humble and Kind by Tim McGraw was playing. And right as the song ended, I was to his right. Right as it ended, his head turned, and he was gone. Right at the end of the song. I mean, the song ends, his head turns, and it was so theatrical. It was totally so Tony. And it was so beautiful. And even though we never would have wanted to lose him, to have him be able to pass and make this transition in a beautiful way, and to have had that time here with many of you is a beautiful thing as well. And as hard as it is, and I know it still will be at times, I'm so incredibly thankful that he did spend that time with all of us here on YouTube, that he did do the videos, that he did get into the chat and moderate for a while. I love that. Kelly says, David Kessler says that you will always grieve, David Kessler says that you will always grieve, but one say it won't be grief and sadness, but grief and love. I get that. there's a lot of things that I'm coming across because, I'm still going through things and looking for things and wrapping things up, like closing out his life. And sometimes I'll find something and it just makes me laugh or smile or even cry, but it's a different grief. I don't know how to explain it. I notice that, like, I'll be crying, but the grief can be different. There's devastating on the floor. I'm not sure if I'm gonna get up to, seeing photos and images, and it just crying because I'm so thankful that it happened. I'm so grateful I had almost 11 years with him, with a man who absolutely loved and adored me, who supported my goals and dreams before I did, who believed that I could do anything before I did. Oh, and in fact, you guys, I found the picture. I found the picture of where he wrote on the message on the board, "You can do anything." I don't remember if I shared it or not, but I was going to put it on the community page. Maria says, "Half Greek, not afraid to die, just like me." Yeah. Yep, he was. Atkins says, transcendent style right to the end. Anna says, "He went sliding into death, all the while yelling, 'Woohoo, what a ride.' I think he has taken away the scariness of death." Yes. I think so too. And he knew, when he was that's why when they were about to intubate him, the last thing he said to me was, "I love you and I want you to have an amazing life." And he knew that that was going to be it, because we had talked about these different scenarios and that could be one of them. And I'm glad we did, because he also was very clear on what he wanted done and how he wanted it to go. And it happened. It happened. I was able to project manage the whole thing that day and make sure that what got done, what he wanted, was done. And I realized something yesterday. And I think that's why I feel this way, well, since yesterday. It's really hard right now, is because when I looked back on that, I realized that when he was actually dying and I was, getting family through and coordinating with the nurses and the palliative care people and hospice, I had a job to do. I wanted to make sure that it was as beautiful and pain-free as possible. And it was. But in doing that, even when I laid with him, I realized I was still holding space still for him and trying to be brave in the hospital. And it just hit me yesterday that I hadn't even really looked at that and grieved that, felt in that moment what that felt like, because in the moment his boys were there. I wanted to, we had family there. I was crying and I was feeling it, but not in the way that I do now. I think I just needed to get through. I needed to make sure that what he wanted was being done. And in that moment, that was the most important thing to me, was to make sure his wishes were being followed. And I did. And now looking back, it's almost like I'm feeling it, feeling that moment, just right before he died and after. In some ways, for the first time, it's like these layers are kind of coming off of just trying to survive and get back to work and get the things done that need to be done. But I can look back on it now and feel like I can finally almost exhale a little bit. But in that exhaling, it's just hitting me even more. And I think that's actually a good thing, because I chose in that moment, not to cry and yell and scream in the way that I wanted to, because I wanted him to have a peaceful passing. I don't know if that even makes sense. I wanted it to be as calm and beautiful as it could be. So here I am 129 days later, feeling that. I know there's a lag a lot on my emotions, it feels like, but 129 days is a big kind of lag. But I think I just also needed to survive. I needed to get back to work. I needed to handle a lot, and I still am. And I'm not getting all the things done. I am dropping so many balls, it's not even funny. But I'm kind of okay with that, or at least I'm learning to be okay with that. That, hey, it's been only 129 days. It's going to be longer. There's going to be so many more ups and downs. And to T's point here, 9 years since I lost my love, still see him in our son every day, still miss him. Yeah. Mary says, not afraid to die. I see it as a win-win. While I'm still here in palliative care, I'm surrounded by love. When I go, there are so many people I love that I'll get to see again, especially soulmate. Yeah, that's a beautiful thing, Mary. Charmin Lynn? I don't know how to pronounce that. Uh, you had the greatest love ever. I would agree. I'm so thankful for that. Absolutely thankful for that. Bee I'm so thankful that you're allowing yourself to feel and share it with us. I'm thankful that you're here and listening, and that what I remember when we made the decision to share about what was really happening with Tony, I expected him not to want to do that because he was such a private person. And he said, no, we're sharing it. Share it all. These are going to be your people after. This is going to be the community you lean on afterwards. And we did. And I'm like, oh, I guess he was right. I'm so glad that I listened to him. I feel like you all saw that coming and knew exactly how it would go and would know what that support would mean to me after he was gone. Like even before I did. Is it Ein? Natalie, I think you should try somatic yoga on YouTube for your emo release. It might be a nice addition to your self-care on the grief roller coaster. Yeah, I will check it out on YouTube. You know, I love the YouTubes for learning all kinds of stuff. T says, so T lost her partner. He was only 33 and it was sudden, which sucks, but I keep his memory alive as much as I can. We talk about him a lot. That is beautiful. I'm glad that you do that. And that you carry that memory. You know, you're the storyteller of his life for your son. Gaslit says he was a blessing and showed you how high the bar is. That's true. He just elevated everything. Abraham, good to see you. It's a good thing that you're letting it out. You can't bottle up all those emotions. You must let them out so you can process it and learn how to move on. It will get better. I am counting on it. And I'm so fortunate for the friends I have where I can pick up the phone and go, okay, I'm on the floor. And they just help me. So many people. And I'm so grateful and thankful for that. Bella Note says, Nat, my heart feels your pain to some degree. Sometimes it feels so surreal. Other times it hits like a landslide. Yeah, I'm like in landslide dumpster fire mode right now. Just hold on and be present in the waves. I like that. My dad, who was a retired lifeguard, always used to say, you know, life is just like the ocean. You have to ride the wave sometime. Don't fight it, ride it, use it. Use it to your advantage somehow. What can you take from it? Where can it take you? Be curious about where you're going to land on the beach. All of the things. He was smart like that. I appreciated that wisdom. T, I'm glad you have people around you, Natalie. Yes, yes. And I'm sure you do and have the same. It is such a takes a village thing completely. And to be able to share this and process these emotions and even just express emotion, it's humongous for me, coming from the Scientology cult and background. Kelly Copter says, "You can call me anytime. I am always ready to get in the pineapple costume." And she is too. And Kelly is one of those people. And I know we're going to spend some time together. I want to get her out here for a road trip next year. She lives in England, but she was out there with us in April when we went to Clearwater. The pineapple costume still cracks me up. uh, Lady Victoria says, "I really needed this. I'm getting sick, and you know what I really needed? To cry, to drain my sinuses, and thank you, and thank you to you, Aunt Tony. Well, maybe Uncle Tony, but he'd actually love being called Aunt Tony. That's kind of funny." I'm glad, and I think that's the thing is so many of you, because I hear from you, are going through grief, have gone through it, are losing someone, has lost someone, and I think being able to support each other in that time it's so important, and being able to express those emotions as well is such a key part, I know, of my healing, and really hard it's been difficult to do for I don't know why I can do it with you guys, but it does help me process it. Maya, thank you so much for being a member for 5 months. I so appreciate it. All of you who are members, that really helps to support my channel. It really makes a difference. Thank you for that. Dying is being born in reverse. Huh. When you are born, your family is welcoming you here. When you die, your loved ones on the other side are welcoming you. I get that. That makes sense. That's really beautiful. That's really beautiful. The virgin monkey, he really loved you. He made sure you wouldn't end up isolated, impactful after Scientology. That is so true. I mean, he knows I have a fantastic family. In fact, my sister's coming today. And I don't know why that's making me cry. She's going to spend the night. So we're going to do a sister sleepover and we're going to have some fun. But you're right. He made sure I wouldn't be isolated. It forced me into it. Like now in hindsight, I'm like, oh, because I said I would do that. I said I would share with you guys. And so now I'm like, okay, I guess I better do it. And it does actually help. Abraham says, "Well, we hope you are on the floor dying of laughter from one of James's jokes." James Steele has the best, mostly dad jokes, but still, if you're lucky enough to catch it in the chat, give him some love because most of them are absolutely hilarious. Maramalo, 562 days since my husband lost his battle. Grief is different every day. I allow for all the feelings. Wow. That is really powerful to be able to allow for all the feelings. I am trying to do that. It still just bursts through my resistance, but I am trying. I like that you count days too, like me. I don't know why. It's so funny because I gave up alcohol 8 years ago. I don't know how many days or even how many whatever, but I can tell you how many days it's been since Tony died. On most days. I might not be able to tell you what day of the week it is, but I can tell you how many days it's been. And some days I don't even think about how many days it's been, and that's kind of nice. I think that's all part of it, right? All part of it. Mary says it's been decades since losing my Bobby. Still have what I call my Bobby days, where it hits me like a ton of bricks. I just let myself go with it. Took a long time to learn that. Yeah. That's what I realized I have to do because when I try to fight it because it doesn't fit with my schedule, which it almost never does. I have so much. I had some really fun. Well, I'll still share them with the next recap, but I had a lot of great stuff in there. But this is where we're at. This is what we're doing. here we are. Welcome to the dumpster fire. Thank you for being here and helping me through it. And I hope we help each other. And I think that we do. Me and Taz says, maybe you should rethink your relationship with Xenu. Okay, no. Xenu is actually the perfect person for me to be dating right now, given the circumstances. And Tony, and I don't doubt that he's laughing right now with all of that. It's really bought me some silly giggles. And sometimes I feel like these ideas I get, it's like I could hear him. I could hear Tony. Hey, you know what would be funny? Because that's what he used to do. He'd say, you know what would be funny? Miss Sunrise Dawn, thank you for being a member for 2 months and being here. Just stopping in to say hello and send you some love, Natalie. I just know Tony is smiling at you from the other side. Yeah, I agree. I think so too. Yep, Shauna, 2 days after her birthday in 2018, and I still have days where I want to crumble. And I think that that's the truth, is that those days are there and they'll always be there. And I don't know if you guys are like me. Sometimes I don't want to share that all the time when it's happening, because it's happening all the time. But like I said, there are more moments now where I am having fun and I am getting engaged back in life again. But these really harder times, like right now, I'm glad that we can share it together. Mousy, we got to find a video of his shimmy. You've heard of it, but you haven't seen it. I got to find it. Or if somebody finds it, send it to me. Bell Note says, I lost my best friend last year and think my grief was delayed by helping her mom, who has dementia, and her 3 kids. It's been 17 months and still so fresh some days. Yeah, I get that. Sometimes it's like you just got to get through the things. You got to do all the things that you got to kind of like. Sometimes you have to push it to the side, but you still have to go through it. And that's what I'm finding is I can have fun. I can be laughing my butt off. And then 20 minutes later, 2 days later, I'm going to be on the floor, a wreck about it. And that's just how it goes. At least I know what to expect. I guess that's kind of how I feel about it. At least I know what to expect. Buttercup 49, you got to send me a video of that. You do the shimmy all the time. I cannot. I can never do like the shoulder thing the way that he did. I cannot. NH Carol, love you, Natalie. Memories are the gift they left to us. That's so true. That's so true. David Bruce says, almost 4 years since I lost my son and father and so many others. I still cry every day. Me too. I think recently I had a 2-day period when I was out of town. When I'm out of town or I'm engaged with other people, I definitely cry less. But I'm glad I have the moment and the space and the time to be able to do it. But yeah, I know how you feel, David. It's been a year. I lost my dad the same day we found out about Tony's cancer spreading to his liver. That was a trip. My dad had a massive heart attack and then he died overnight. Him and Tony were really close, which was really special. All right. I think I grabbed all the membership stuff. Anna from Canada, when you are in pain and it feels unbearably heavy, we will help carry the load, Natalie, all of us. That's what I was hoping. And it does feel that way. As much as I resist, doing a video and coming on and talking about this, it does help. It feels that way when it gets to where I feel like I can't, that I can't carry this on my own. And then sometimes I feel like, well, I don't want to, put it on all of you, but it's a choice. That's why I said in the beginning of the video, you could watch it, you could not watch it, because it's going to be a mess, but a beautiful, healthy mess, a mess that needs to happen. From the mess comes good things. Quilty B says, hugs, this is hard stuff, but we are not meant to get through it alone. Yeah, I realize that. And I appreciate it all so much from all of you, truly. And doing the recap each day, doing the fun videos, doing the interviews I do, those are my favorite things. I absolutely love doing it and being here with you. I hope you guys know how much I appreciate each of you. Bill notes, I relate to your losses. I lost my dad, my cousin, and my best friend. Wow, all in 2023 in just a couple of months. Yeah, there's no way you've processed all of that. I mean, I can't even imagine. I'm so glad that you're here though and talking about it. All right, I'm going to head out. My sister's coming in a few hours. We are going to maybe do something. Lana had some stuff she said she wanted to talk about, so we might do it today. We might do it tomorrow. We're definitely doing something tomorrow. Speaking of Xenu, we do have a date tomorrow planned. I'm going to bring you guys along. So I appreciate you all. Make sure you check that subscribe button and set it to all. So hopefully you get notifications when I do some of the things that I'm going to be doing coming up. Abraham, don't ever feel embarrassed or ashamed. Come let it all out with friends. This helps you and those watching who can relate. You're helping lots of people during your journey. Thank you, Abraham. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you, my friend. You too, David Bruce. Have a great day. Have a great day, everybody. It's going to get better. Like I said, my sister's coming over to help out. So help me get through. But thank you for being here, for listening, for watching the videos with me. And I appreciate you, and I will talk to you later. I hope you guys all get out and have an amazing cult-free day.